Developing right now on Morning News Now, President Trump heading home to Washington after a whirlwind trip to Asia, touting what he described as an amazing meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and South Korea. The two leaders discussing drugs, rare earth minerals, and trade, with the president announcing an easing of fentanyl-related tariffs on China. Meanwhile, growing fallout over the government shutdown as funding for several programs set to run out after tomorrow. We'll bring you the latest. Also developing disaster in the Caribbean this morning, Bermuda now bracing for Hurricane Melissa. The powerful storm already leaving a trail of destruction across Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba as residents pick up the pieces and tourists make their way home.
It was horrible, horrific, terrifying, the worst day of my entire life.
Devastating, and I honestly thought I was going to die.
We'll bring you the latest as the storm churns through the Atlantic. Plus, best interest, the Fed cutting interest rates for the second time and possibly final time this year. We'll break down the numbers and what they could mean for your wallet. And a haunting message from officials. Halloween is one of the most dangerous days of the year for kid pedestrians. We will share some tips to keep it both spooky and safe while trick-or-treating tomorrow. Because tomorrow is already Halloween. Happy Halloween. Thanks for being with us on a Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is on assignment. We're going to begin this morning with President Trump on his way back to Washington after wrapping up his Asia tour with a high-stakes face-to-face summit with China's President Xi. The two leaders met in South Korea overnight with the goal of easing trade tensions. President Trump called the meeting amazing. Speaking on Air Force One afterwards, the president said the U.S. agreed to lower tariffs on China in exchange for a crackdown on fentanyl. And Mr. Trump also said both countries reached a deal on Chinese rare earth minerals, while Beijing agreed to resume purchases of U.S. soybeans. President Trump added that he would visit China in April, with President Xi coming to the U.S. at some point after that. Here is a bit more from Mr. Trump after the meeting.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? It was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made. There wasn't too much left out there.
NBC News International correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer joins us from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Janice, good morning. So President Trump seems happy with the outcome of this meeting. Tell us a bit more about how it went and what we're hearing from Beijing on it.
When President Trump was briefing reporters on Air Force One, he said he gave the meeting a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. So spirits were very high, and this was a meeting with very high stakes. Their first face-to-face in 6 years did not yield the major trade deal between the U.S. and China, but there were agreements on some key issues that will, in the meantime, reduce trade tensions. The meeting lasted about an hour and 40 minutes. From the Chinese side, they're saying that they also thought it was positive. There were some moves on some key issues like fentanyl, American soybeans, and China's export of rare earths, all of it earning a reduction in tariffs for China. And so what we see coming out of this meeting, Savannah, is a pattern that has been established in U.S.-China relations over the past year to escalate and then de-escalate, having established these new bargaining points. It's the sort of transactional diplomacy that China is known for, and it's also the business style that President Trump seems to favor when he's doing foreign policy.
Janice, as we mentioned, one of the biggest results of this meeting was the U.S. lowering tariffs tied to fentanyl. That was a key grievance of Beijing and a big thing for Mr. Trump, having said that it's really where fentanyl, which is this potent, deadly narcotic, is being trafficked from. You actually got this exclusive look inside a fentanyl factory in China. Tell us about what you saw and what this piece of this agreement might mean for that industry.
Savannah, the U.S. government has long accused China and Chinese companies of being the source of fentanyl precursors, those ingredients that are used to make illegal fentanyl, illicit fentanyl, which usually is done in Mexico and then it comes across the southern border. China has long denied this. We were able to visit one of the only legal fentanyl factories in all of China. They're churning out 600 doses per minute on each production line, and there are 5 production lines, and there are extraordinary safety and security procedures that are in place. There's tight monitoring. Every single vial has 4 different codes on it that make it possible to trace each vial back to the company. So the president of the company said it's impossible that any of his company's fentanyl has leaked into the United States. What we saw with this meeting today is President Trump emerged convinced that Xi Jinping is going to do more and work hard, in President Trump's words, to try to stop the flow of these fentanyl precursors into the United States.
Janice, also in a surprise announcement ahead of this summit, President Trump ordered the Pentagon to resume nuclear weapon testing. He said immediately, and his terminology was on an equal basis with other nations. Do we know why he wants to do this, and how significant is this announcement, given it came just before this meeting with President Xi?
Well, it's a shock announcement, not only around the timing of it, right before this meeting with Xi Jinping, but also around the rationale. Basically, ordering the Defense Department to immediately start testing of nuclear weapons to reach parity with other countries like China and Russia. Though China, it's been 30 years since their last known test. What isn't clear is why President Trump is choosing to do this now. He has recently been sharpening his rhetoric around U.S. military capabilities, but there are a lot of people, NBC News included, who are out to the White House right now to get some clarity on whether President Trump meant nuclear weapons or nuclear-capable weapons when he made that announcement. Savannah?
All right. Janice, thank you very much. Well, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says U.S. forces carried strike in the Eastern Pacific on a vessel allegedly carrying drugs to the United States. 4 people were killed. This is now the 14th known time that the Trump administration has launched military strikes on alleged drug-carrying vessels in recent months. Earlier this week, Hegseth said 14 people, he called them narco-terrorists, were killed in strikes on 4 vessels in this same region. He's repeatedly defended these actions, saying the vessels are traveling along a known drug smuggling route. The majority of these strikes have been carried out in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela. Well, on Capitol Hill, the bitter stalemate in the Senate continues this morning as the government shutdown enters day 30. There are some signs of potential progress, with lawmakers from both parties telling NBC News that bipartisan talks have picked up again after being stalled for weeks. But yesterday, Democrats tried and failed to pass a standalone bill using a procedural maneuver that would keep low-income food programs funded during the shutdown. It would have required every senator to vote in favor and went down in defeat. Well, in a fiery speech on the Senate floor, Republican Majority Leader John Thune accused Democrats of playing games with people's lives and livelihoods.
SNAP recipients shouldn't go without food. People should be getting paid in this country. And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you all have just figured out, 29 days in, that, there might be some consequences. You want to have a discussion about health care? Absolutely. Let's do it. Open the government. Let's do it.
For more, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Mel, I mean, first of all, to be able to come to you and say there's signs that there might be progress, there might be some talks, that is new. Every day you've been telling us, that's kind of the same as yesterday. We've really seen, though, people may have even seen this, like I've been noticing it on social media, like the pressure of some of these deadlines building, people starting to post about SNAP benefits going away, how many children that will impact. House staffers also, they're going to miss their first paychecks tomorrow. Those SNAP benefits are going to expire Saturday. Military pay has been in doubt. We've been talking about TSA, FAA. What are you hearing about these talks that are happening between the rank and file members? Is there a contingency plan here? What's the movement?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. There are some signs of life in these spending talks. I spoke to the senators in both parties yesterday, and they confirmed that these bipartisan discussions among rank-and-file members about potentially reopening the government and addressing these expiring health care subsidies have resumed in recent days. And this comes as the pain of the shutdown has really started to escalate. So perhaps members of both parties are finally starting to get antsy about the lack of progress. That being said, the senators involved in the talks also warned that there is still a lot more progress to be made, while some Republicans are even casting doubt entirely on the seriousness of those conversations because of the fact that Democrats are still insistent on their chief demand about those health care subsidies. Let's hear from some of those Republicans.
Hopefully the fever is starting to break.
What makes you say that?
I think there's some cracks developing right now amongst the Democrats, and I'm glad some common sense may finally prevail.
So no, look, there's a lot of discussion going on now, but I don't get any sense. Normally when you're about to achieve a breakthrough, you're going to have more formal negotiations, probably with 3 to 5 members on either side, and then it grows from there. I don't see any evidence of that now.
And the Democrats that I spoke to did describe these discussions as good discussions, but they said they're not going to go anywhere until the leadership and President Donald Trump get involved. But in a scenario where the two sides have not even been talking, we will take this as a small sign of progress.
Mel, I want to ask you about something that Leader Thune mentioned, which is talking about health care, because I think maybe people at home are sort of confused by some of this sometimes. Like, okay, so is it Republicans, Democrats not negotiating? What's going on here? We know Democrats are pushing for an extension of health insurance tax credits in exchange for their votes to reopen the government. This is because the cost of health care insurance for more than 20 million Americans is expected to skyrocket next year. It's because of a combo of things: expiring subsidies, rising premiums. If Democrats do relent on that and say, okay, as Speaker Thune said there, we will open the government and then we negotiate after, do Republicans have a plan to address the issue of affordable health care? And how do you think, from what you're hearing from people, that issue stacks up with the current issue of things like SNAP benefits running out?
Yeah, well, Republicans, frankly, are all over the map when it comes to health care. There are some Republicans who support those Obamacare extension, an extension of those Obamacare subsidies. There are others who want to see them expire entirely. But the real question is, what do Republicans envision as their replacement for the Affordable Care Act? That is something that is still very much a question. They have not come to a consensus on that issue. It is something that has really bedeviled Republicans for a long, long time, including in Trump's first administration. So even though the government is obviously going to reopen eventually at some point, this health care issue is not going away because health insurance about to go up for 26% of people on the ACA marketplace. And then people who rely on those subsidies, if those go away, they could see their premiums double, triple, even quadruple in some cases. So this is a huge liability for Republicans. They recognize that, but it's going to take a long, long time for them to figure out a solution. Savannah.
All right. Melanie Zanona, thank you very much. Well, in economic news, big news. The Federal Reserve cut interest rates on Wednesday by a quarter point. Now, that was expected. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell appeared to kind of rattle markets after he raised doubts about another rate cut at the next meeting that will take place in December. Let's take a listen to what he said.
In the committee's discussions at this meeting, there were strongly differing views about how to proceed in December. A further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is not a foregone conclusion. Far from it. Policy is not on a preset course.
Of course, Investopedia's editor-in-chief, our friend Caleb Silver, is back here with us this morning. Caleb, good morning. Okay, so, I mean, sometimes when I'm listening to some of those comments, to me, it's like, okay, I got to ask Caleb because it's like reading tea leaves. That was pretty clear that there's real differing conclusions was the word he used. So walk us through this. We did get the rate cut that we were expecting, future uncertain.
Yeah, and I think that moment when he said that was when a lot of us spit out our coffee because he just showed you how split the Federal Reserve is right now. And he alluded to it. There's a dissent within the Federal Reserve right now where half of the members of the voting committee want higher interest rates or want to keep them right where they are, and the other half want them much lower, including Stephen Moran, who was appointed by the president. So the Fed is in this place again where it doesn't really have a lot of information on the labor market, though it knows that it's slowing. It knows that hiring has slowed down. We've seen layoffs from big companies. At the same time, inflation is kind of tempered a little bit. We saw that 3% number last week. So no foregone conclusion, no decision to cut in December, although the last meeting it looked like that might happen. Doesn't look like it might happen this year.
In addition to the interest rate cut, the Fed also announced it would end the reduction of its asset purchases. This is a little wonky. Walk me through this and why it's important.
Yeah, this is what we call quantitative tightening. It will end its quantitative tightening. That's not a weird yoga move. This is when the Fed literally sells off the balance sheet. Remember, in times of economic distress, the Fed buys assets. It buys bonds. It buys mortgage-backed securities. That happened during the pandemic. And then when things ease up a little bit, they sell them. That's quantitative tightening. The Fed thinks that its money supply is in the right place, doesn't want to put more money back into the market right now, thinks inflation is cool. That's a good sign right now. That could kind of keep prices where they are. And we saw with this new tariff reduction announced just earlier this morning, maybe tariffs are not going to be as bad as we thought.
So then with this kind of like mixed bag, like that's sort of good news, but then we're looking ahead, we might not see another rate cut. Like what does this just mean for all the things we keep talking about? Buying a home, your interest rates on your mortgage, your credit cards.
Yeah, mortgage rates were kind of on their way lower as there was this perception that the Fed was going to keep lowering this year. They kind of stopped right where they are. So I would not expect mortgage rates on the 30-year fixed to drop below 6% anytime this year, but also that's the same for car loans. They're going to stay at that high percentage rate and credit card APRs as well. So money's expensive. You're going to still pay higher rates for now. Next year it could be a little bit easier.
And Caleb, one more thing I want to ask you about, a little bit of breaking news here. It's your birthday. Did you know we were going to do that?
No, I did not know we were going to do that. Thank you very
Happy
much.
birthday, my friend. We appreciate you. I know our viewers appreciate you. You walk us through this, I mean, like almost daily, and we love having you here.
Thanks. Nice to
very
celebrate
much.
it here.
We appreciate hearing that. All right, we're going to get to our other, of course, big and ongoing story from this week, Hurricane Melissa. This morning, we are starting to get a picture of the sheer magnitude of the destruction here after the storm battered the Bahamas overnight. Well, the National Hurricane Center is calling it one of the worst storms to ever hit the Atlantic Basin. Officials say at least 36 people have been killed across the Caribbean. These before and after satellite images, we're showing you them on your screen left and right. It just shows some of the devastating aftermath in Jamaica. The United Nations regional coordinator for the island called the damage there unprecedented. He says an early estimate shows nearly 1 million people were impacted. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest from Kingston.
Good morning. Those commercial and relief flights set to arrive here at the airport in Kingston. Now, as for Montego Bay, well, portions of that airport were badly damaged, so it's still unclear when commercial flights may take off there. So it brings a lot of uncertainty for those 25,000 American tourists still stranded essentially in that part of the island. Now, yesterday we got a sense of the devastation in some of the hardest hit areas. We began to head southwest where Melissa made landfall, and the roads there were certainly treacherous. At one point, as we were moving, we actually saw police with chainsaws trying to chop up some of the large tree debris that was along the highway there. Many of them telling me that they were just trying to assess the road on a case-by-case basis. Our next stop was a town called Santa Cruz, where a portion of that roadway was just covered in mud, bringing traffic to a standstill. We talked to some residents there who were telling us the water got up to their waist, if not higher, some of them using buckets to clean up some of the muck and debris, anything that wasn't concrete, roof structures, completely blown away by Melissa's wrath. And then as we try to continue further and further to ground zero, essentially, to Black River, we came to a complete stop. There was too many obstructions, too much mud. Officials saying it's really just one of the areas that's going to be the longest to assess because it has just been so devastated by Melissa. Officials saying that they are now working on those plans to restore power, to restore food and water to some of these most devastated areas. And unfortunately, we are learning more about the death toll. Officials telling us by their count, at least 5 so far this morning, and that possibly includes an infant. Officials still working to assess some of those areas that, again, have not been able to be reached by any vehicle to really just start understanding just how bad the damage was. A lot of officials touring much of the devastated areas by the air. And again, you really get a sense of just that path of destruction as Melissa tore through the island. Some of the flooding here has sort of started to recede and subside. But again, when you talk about the infrastructure and just putting it all together, it is certainly going to take a long time to get a full comprehensive picture of the scope of the damage here. Back to you.
All right, George, thank you. Well, now let's bring in Yvonne Rodriguez-Wewell. She is the executive advisor for the Caribbean at Direct Relief. That's a humanitarian aid organization. Thank you so much for making the time to talk with me. I know it is a busy week for you and your team as you're working there. Just in this early assessment, as we've been talking about, just this really horrific damage. One UN official said Jamaica has been devastated at a level never seen before. What are you hearing about the extent of the damage across all of the impacted islands, not just Jamaica?
Devastation throughout, unfortunately. Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, infrastructure damages. In Jamaica, at least 4 hospitals suffered significant damages, which is a reason for serious concerns, as damage to healthcare infrastructure can have long-term impact on post-disaster settings. Experience has taught us that that primary cause of death during these events is not necessarily the impact of the hurricane itself, but what comes in the aftermath due to the lack of continuity to medical services. In Puerto Rico, for example, after Hurricane Maria, more than 4,600 people died because pharmacies were closed, health centers were without power, lack of services for people that suffer from chronic conditions, diabetes, hypertension.
Coordinating relief, Yvonne, for one country after a natural disaster, of course, a monumental task. Your team trying to help several different nations, these island nations, they're separated by miles of ocean. I mean, how do you even start to organize a response to this magnitude of a disaster? How do you prioritize?
Yes, one of the biggest challenges right now is logistics, as you're saying, ensuring that essential medical supplies and equipment reach the hardest hit areas as quickly as possible, especially where infrastructure and power remain compromised. Our team is also navigating limited local transport capacity, communication disruptions, and the need to coordinate with multiple partners at the same time to avoid also duplication of aid, right? And make sure aid goes where it needs to go first. So at the moment, Direct Relief has allocated $250,000 to support in emergency operations and logistics. And we have more than $60 million in aid ready to be deployed, ensuring that essential medications, medicines, and supplies reach those that are in need the most.
The storm also knocked out power, right, to hundreds of thousands of people. And then we've got the major roadways flooded or blocked with debris. All of that makes it difficult to reach some of these hardest hit areas. What are some of the biggest challenges that your team is facing trying to get help and supplies to the people who need it?
Yeah, like I said before, the challenges right now are basically the logistics, right? And trying to get these essential medicines and supplies to the hardest hit areas as quickly as possible. We are in constant communication with the Ministry of Health in Jamaica. Right now, we already shipped 100 medical backpacks filled with first aid items for triage care for emergency responders. And we already sent that shipment with 250 requested medical personal care kits that includes hygiene kits for displaced people. So we're in constant communication with the Ministry of Health in Jamaica. We have been for the past couple of years investing in emergency preparedness projects such as solar power for medical warehouses, generators for health centers, and as we have been told, these generators have been working. So that's a little bit of a good news right there.
For people watching at home, what can they do to help?
So, yeah, Direct Relief is privately funded, so we depend on donations from individuals, private companies to continue our work. People can go to our website, directrelief.org, for more information on that.
All right. Yvonne Rodriguez, we will thank you very much for making time to speak with me this morning and for the work that you're doing there. We appreciate talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, let's get the latest on Hurricane Melissa, because it is still causing trouble across the Atlantic this morning, if you can believe that. Angie Lassman is tracking the storm for us still. She's got more. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. We've still got a Category 2 hurricane with Melissa moving northeast now at 21 miles per hour. Really sped up over the past 24 hours, now pulling away from those outer bands across parts of the Bahamas. But we are going to see this kind of remain to be a hurricane for a little while longer as it passes Bermuda late into the overnight hours tonight and into early tomorrow morning, as likely a Category 2. Beyond that, we'll see more weakening. It'll become post-tropical here as we get closer to the weekend. But we will be watching for some rain potentially and that system to pass just to the west of Bermuda later today. Meanwhile, it's a soggy one across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, stretching back across the Ohio Valley. We've got a whole lot of rain that we're watching thanks to this system that's kind of sliding up the coast. Now, we could see some localized flooding anywhere from Boston to Philadelphia today. You want your rain gear. You want to have that rain jacket, the umbrella here through the the day today. You can see this is a pause at 8 p.m., still dealing with those showers across this region. And this is really going to increase our winds as well. You'll notice that even as the system moves out tomorrow, we see cooler conditions kind of settling in across the Northeast and those winds ramping up. That, of course, just in time for Halloween. So as we look ahead to Halloween evening, winds 30, 40, 50 miles per hour in some spots, especially closer to the coast. You'll see those stronger winds. This, of course, not only going to make it feel a little chillier with it feels like temperatures anywhere from the 30s in Syracuse to the upper 30s in Albany. As we look to Scranton, we've got 30s for what it feels like. Not quite as chilly for the feels like temperature closer to the coast, but the wind's not great for, of course, those Halloween decorations and such that are likely going to be up as trick-or-treaters get away. Now, trick-or-treating forecast elsewhere. Yes, we've got the frightening winds, Savannah, across the Northeast.
I hate the
but
wind, so that actually is frightening.
well, okay. Well, you've got to go to, I don't know, Death Valley, California. How about that? 94 degrees and clear skies. We've got Transylvania, Louisiana looking pretty good. Low 60s, expecting mostly sunny skies for Bone Gap, Illinois. We've got Ghost Cove, Florida. I know you like these.
I'm so into this.
Degrees. Which one? Do you want to read one? I know you like one.
Did you just change it to Spokane?
Spokane. Yeah, Spokane, Washington. I can take creative.
Are the other ones real? Are the other ones real that are made
You're
up?
gonna have to maybe. What's my favorite one is Albuquerque. Come on, say it.
That was a stretch.
Should we change it permanently? Albuquerque.
Why don't you call them up and let me know next hour?
People in Albuquerque are not happy with me right now.
That's adorable, though. Thank you.
You got it.
Happy Halloween. We'll see
Halloween.
you in an hour. All right, well, newly released dramatic video shows these frantic moments. This is when first responders arrived on the scene at an elementary school in Virginia after a 6-year-old student shot his teacher back in 2023. The video was introduced as evidence in the ongoing civil trial over the teacher's allegations that a school administrator didn't do enough to stop the shooting. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details.
Law enforcement urgently raced into Rich Neck Elementary, one armed with a long gun, after reports of a shooting in early 2023. These videos released publicly today for the first time as part of a civil trial in Virginia, capturing the frantic scene after a 6-year-old fired a single shot at his first-grade teacher, Abigail Werner. The 9mm handgun left on the floor of the schoolroom, just feet from the children's desks. First responders treated Werner's injuries in the school's front office before racing her to the hospital. In the ambulance, Werner asking EMTs to distract her. In testimony, a surgeon described just how close she came to losing her life that day. The bullet, which is still lodged inside her, sliced through her hand and into her chest.
It went past the heart and just barely missed it.
Body cam footage from a sheriff's deputy recorded the tense moments among staff the day of the shooting.
As soon as he shot it, I was walking down the hall and I heard, and I went right in. Abby was in, the teacher was bloody.
The $40 million civil case accuses assistant principal Ebony Parker, sitting at her desk in these images, of ignoring multiple warnings a student had a gun.
When you look at that in totality, it's almost shocking, the lack of action there.
The defense says hindsight is 20/20, and Parker was just following protocol, including her decision not to search the student until his mother arrived. The defense is saying that there was collective responsibility for what happened there that day.
All right, Stephanie Gosk, thank you very much. Well, there's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, corporate cutback. A major automaker, just the latest big company to announce mass layoffs. Bring you the latest. But at first, new this morning, several more suspects now under arrest for that daring heist at the Louvre Museum. What officials are saying next. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to turn to some international news now. Overnight, prosecutors in Paris announced the arrest of 5 new suspects in connection with the Louvre jewel heist. The arrests were made in a series of police operations on Wednesday in and around Paris. We're showing you that on your screen. One suspect was allegedly tied to the crime because of that DNA left behind at the scene. 7 people are now in custody, but investigators still have not recovered the jewels taken in this crime from 11 days ago. We'll, of course, keep you updated on that. Well, in the Middle East, Israel says its ceasefire with Hamas is back on after it launched a series of strikes on Gaza. The Palestinian Ministry of Health says more than 100 people were killed in the enclave since Tuesday night. The IDF launched these strikes because of the shooting and killing of an Israeli soldier in Gaza. They also accused Hamas of returning some remains of a hostage body that had been previously returned. The Prime Minister of Qatar, a country which has been a mediator throughout these ceasefire negotiations, called the violations of the agreement, quote, very disappointing and frustrating. NBC News International correspondent Matt Bradley is in Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning. So the IDF, they released sort of like this infographic. We've seen this quite a few times from them. This one yesterday, it lists what they say are terrorists that they struck in this round of strikes on Gaza. Hamas says this list is inaccurate, but what more can you tell us?
That's right. Hamas is saying that some of these names are people who are still alive. Some of them are names that they say the Israelis made up. But their main complaint, and the main complaint of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, is that by Israel's own admission, this is only 25 names. They said that Israel killed more than 100 people in those airstrikes over about 12 hours. So they are saying that Israel is basically acknowledging that the vast majority, about 75% of the people that they've killed since that ceasefire was violated, have been civilians. Now, the Palestinians have said that about more than 40 of those more than 100 people killed were children, and about 20 of them were women. So this is going to be a major source of anger, and it just goes to show, as the Palestinians in Gaza, which is ruled by Hamas, have repeatedly been saying, it is civilians, women and children, who are carrying the main burden of Israel's strikes on the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm. Matt, tell us more just about which areas in the enclave were targeted.
Every single area. We heard from Hamas saying that this was up and down, south, central, and northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Of course, a lot of this was focused on the central northern part, Gaza City. That's where, Israel had essentially allowed that area to not be attacked for the majority of the past 2-year-long war, and only really started focusing on it in the days and weeks ahead of this ceasefire deal because there were suspicions that the remaining living hostages were being held there. But this was a comprehensive set of attacks, but one that was still limited to about less than a 12-hour period. I said 12 hours a moment ago. It was really more like an 8-hour period. Now that ceasefire is back in place. But, it's important to note, Savannah, when we talk about how tenuous this treaty is, when we talk about how there are continued, repeated violations, and this is the case, it's important to note, too, that this treaty has gone through and endured other violations. And look to the north of where I am now, in Lebanon, where Israel is continuing to pummel Hezbollah despite a nearly year-long ceasefire there and killing people on an almost daily basis. And still that ceasefire survives. So it looks like, given the history and given the current context, we could still see more violations. We could still see more retaliatory attacks by the Israelis. And that doesn't necessarily mean that this ceasefire is going to die.
Matt, also, if we talk about kind of moving this forward, everybody might remember that this all started with Trump's 20-point peace plan. And there's a lot of questions about how we kind of move on within that peace plan to later phases. Well, yesterday we saw Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visit this U.S.-led civil military coordination center. It was in Israel. He met there with American military personnel about just that, about moving this plan forward. What kind of work are they doing there? What did they talk about? What might we see happen because of these efforts?
Yeah, this is a really interesting wrinkle to this whole issue, which is that there's about 200 U.S. military personnel currently posted at that facility that you're mentioning. Now, President Trump had made clear, and other American officials have made clear, they will not set foot in the Gaza Strip. But they are coordinating the deal, this ceasefire. They will presumably be coordinating with whatever international security force that's supposedly going to be assembled and will eventually provide security and essentially governance, preside over the Gaza Strip. Now, the notion here is that this will be populated by military members from various Muslim and Middle Eastern countries, specifically countries like Egypt, maybe Indonesia. These are all names that keep getting bandied about. The people that I've been speaking to here in the halls of power, they say that they haven't seen any sign that this international security force is even anywhere near being put together.
All right, Matt Bradley, thank you so much. Coming up, a guilty verdict in the trial of a former sheriff's deputy who shot and killed a woman reporting a prowler near her home. Why that woman's family says justice was not served. You're watching Morning News Now. We are back with the latest development in the case of Sonia Massey. It took a jury 11 hours yesterday to find Sean Grayson guilty of second-degree murder in her death. The former Illinois sheriff's deputy was convicted of shooting and killing Massey after she called police to report a suspected prowler near her home last year. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has more, including reaction from Massey's family.
It's guilty. Second degree.
The verdict carrying a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. But Massey's family and other supporters had been hoping for a conviction on first-degree murder.
I'm fueled by rage right now. If you get an officer that says he's going to shoot you in the face, and then he shoots you in the face, and you only get second-degree murder.
Grayson stoic as the verdict was read. The jury ultimately finding Grayson shot Massey in her kitchen last year and that his claim of needing to use deadly force was unreasonable. This after Grayson testified he perceived Massey's behavior as a threat. The Springfield mother of two had called 911 about a possible prowler picking up a pot of boiling water and saying, prosecutors arguing Grayson could have left Massey's home after she ducked behind her counter and apologized. Massey's father angry, but hopeful Grayson will receive the maximum sentence.
Because he showed no remorse. He was so cocky throughout this whole trial.
You felt like he was cocky?
Oh, yeah. Until today. Until he was
convicted.
Yeah. That knocked the smirk off.
First perspective on this, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, good morning. Thank you for being with us. Obviously a difficult video to watch and to unpack. Let's start with the verdict. So we mentioned second-degree murder conviction here. As we just heard, though, the family is very upset by that, does not think it was enough. Put this verdict in context with us. Do you think it's appropriate?
So this all came down to that body cam footage, which is incredibly difficult to watch. And the jury saw it many, many times throughout the trial. So for the defense perspective, they have to say, how are we going to deal with this? Because it is a very high burden. Prosecutors have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And their burden was for first-degree murder to prove that Grayson intentionally killed Massey.
Right.
Now, second-degree murder is a little different because this was self-defense. It's that he believed that there was a threat of imminent harm or death, but his belief was unreasonable. So it gave the jury an option to maybe say his actions were wrong, but he believed in the moment that he was right. And that's how we end up at second-degree murder. And Savannah, the only way to do that, because that's about his own perception in those moments at the time, was to put him on the stand. A risky move that I think ended up being the reason why you see this as second-degree murder as opposed to first-degree.
Absolutely. What did you think about that one, the risky factor of it?
I wasn't surprised that it happened because in a self-defense case, so much really hinges on what that person, especially when you're talking about a police officer, what they were perceiving in that moment. You can't go 20/20. It's not looking in hindsight. It's in that period of time.
Right.
Why they reacted that way. That's the subjective component of it. And the only way to really establish that is for that person to tell the jury. So it's either that there were interviews previously. Exactly. So in a self-defense case, you see the defendant taking the stand, especially when it's an officer, more often than in other cases where it's very rare to see a defendant testify.
I think one of the very difficult moments in the video we just played where she ducks behind the counter, and as Maggie pointed out there, that was kind of brought up as a de-escalation potential moment there. Leave because she's done that. She's apologizing. Is the law clear about what a police officer's responsibility is when it comes to de-escalation?
So the law doesn't attack de-escalation specifically. What it says is that anytime a police officer uses force, it has to be reasonable and proportionate to the risk that is at play. So all of that then is put into account with police officer training protocols where they're taught about de-escalation procedures. And really, from the law's perspective, lethal force is your last resort. There has to be a risk that there is grave injury or death on the other side. So all of that comes into play. And that's why, Savannah, you see a lot of scrutiny over police training and protocols after these cases. And oftentimes, and in this one as well, you see changes being made by those police departments to fill in some gaps and to fill in training methods with respect to de-escalation to avoid these issues, which are horrific all the way around.
Moving forward, let's talk what could happen in sentencing. Does he have an option for appeal also?
So he does have an option for appeal. He was found guilty of a serious crime. It's second-degree murder. Sentencing, and I'm sure he will appeal because that's the general course with any defendant. Sentencing will be another hearing. The prosecution will present what's called aggravating factors. The defense will present mitigating factors. Ultimately, it will be up to the judge. And here, the sentence is up to 20 years. So you're talking about anything from probation to 20 years, as opposed to a first-degree murder conviction, which is 60, and then you could ultimately see life. So it's a very different sentencing maximum that we could see. But everything that came into play at the trial, Savannah, will also be factors that will be presented to the judge who oversaw this trial, so knows what happened in this case, saw the video, heard the testimony, and ultimately that judge will make the decision.
All right. Misty Maris, thank you so much. Great to have you. An auto industry giant has announced a large round of layoffs. NBC's Emily Lors joins us live with another Money Headlines. Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Yeah, General Motors is tapping the brakes on electric vehicle production, slashing more than 1,700 jobs across Michigan and Ohio. The automaker also temporarily laying off an additional 1,500 workers in Ohio and Tennessee. The move comes as Americans pull back on EV purchases after the loss of a key tax credit. GM says it remains committed to U.S. manufacturing. And Meta is doubling down on its bet on the metaverse. Even as costs pile up, the company's Reality Labs unit, which makes its virtual reality headsets and AI smart glasses, lost $4.4 billion last quarter. While demand for Meta's new AI glasses has been strong, the company expects slower headset sales this quarter. Investors didn't like the news. Meta's stock is down pre-market. Finally, Starbucks is brewing big business with coffee delivery. The service topping $1 billion in annual sales for the first time. Delivery orders jumped nearly 30% in the latest quarter, even as overall U.S. sales stayed flat. Most of its stores now offer delivery, and customers are ordering more, with the average delivery nearly twice the size of its in-store purchases. Savannah, that sounds kind of nice, getting your coffee just delivered right as you wake up in the morning.
I mean, kind of, but there is a Starbucks on every corner.
And with the price of coffee right now.
No, and the delivery for you, blah, blah, blah. But cool, good for people. I do the, order ahead on the app, and that's
that's smart.
The most efficient thing that I
make
do
it at
with
home.
my time.
Consistent. I know where it's going to be when.
Good for you. Not an option. Thanks, Emily. All right, coming up, it's a wild story that you just need to see to believe.
She's like, is that a real monkey? And so I look up and I said, well, it's got a diaper on, so I guess it is real.
When we come back, find out how this diaper-clad primate became the most popular display at one Spirit Halloween store. Plus, no tricks, just treats. Get the kids' costumes ready. Halloween is tomorrow, but be warned, as the night falls, the danger grows. We'll make sure that you celebrate in a spooky and safe way next. Don't be scared. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Many families across the U.S. are gearing up for a night of costumes and candy tomorrow, of course. Well, Halloween is an exciting holiday for kids, also us grown-ups. It is one of the most dangerous days of the year for child pedestrians because we're walking around trick-or-treating. Lifestyle and parenting expert Shannon Doherty joins me now with some tips on how to make the night fun and safe. Shannon, it's so wonderful to see you. Good morning. Happy Halloween.
Good morning. Happy Halloween. I'm getting excited over here.
Oh, good. I know. Me too. I'm so excited. I love this time of year. Let's start with one of the basics. Okay, so when we talk about what kids are wearing, obviously they've got their costumes on, but there are ways that you can do things with their costumes, with the clothing that they've got on to keep them safer. What should we have in mind?
Yes. So safety, especially I have 4 kids running around on Halloween. That is very important. And here are some little tricks. One, I always put glow sticks on all my kids. They love them. And that way I can see them when they're running around at night because it gets so dark. And if they have a dark costume on, at least the glow sticks, you can actually see them. I also always tell them, put your sneakers on. I don't care what your costume is. In case you're running or tripping, you want to make sure you have your sneakers on. Stay in groups. Don't go into any houses that have the lights off. And just really check around, make sure you know your surroundings, know that there's a meetup space for your family. because it's just being dark and running around outside. That is number one fear.
Really, really, really good tips. I like the one, don't stop at dark houses. That's especially on Halloween. That's a little spooky, but it's a good tip.
Halloween. Exactly.
Exactly. All right, other tips. I know you've got a bunch for us that keeps everybody safe while they're out and about.
Right. So I always feed my kids also before we go out, get them full so they're not just snacking on all the candy. And on the note about candy, I don't know if you've heard about the Teal Pumpkin Project, but my son has allergies, so we're very well versed in it in our house. And it's the idea that if you go to a house and there's a teal pumpkin outside, that means they're allergy free. So there's no nuts in them and they're safe for all kids with allergies to eat, which is really, my son absolutely loves that because it's scary on Halloween. You never know if you can eat the candy that you get or not.
Wow, I absolutely love that. I did not know about that. And I want to ask you a little bit more about it. So there's some homes that are putting these out. It's part of like a nationwide thing, right? Like a safety food project.
Yes.
So this is something that everybody can see around the country?
Everyone can see it. So when you go to a house and you have that teal pumpkin outside, you'll know this is an allergy-free, nut-safe house. And some ideas that people can put instead of candy, they can put necklaces, spider rings, glow sticks, bubbles, crayons, make little like boo basket-y things for kids. But that way, instead of traditional candy where kids can have allergens, they can have really safe things. Halloween pencils, Halloween stickers, all the fun little crap things. My kids, those tend to be their favorite houses because they get so much candy at other houses and they love getting like a little fun, squishy, anything you can put in there. And it's really nice for the kids because my son who has allergies will get a big bag and he doesn't know if he can really eat any of the candy.
Right, Shannon, wow, that is really, really neat. I did not know about that, and I'm happy we're telling people. Okay, just like 20 seconds, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're so good at this. Your best last-minute idea for a costume.
Best last-minute idea. Okay, currently right now, my kids are loving, there's two of them. The Labubus, you just put on some fuzzy costume. You don't even need the ears. You can use a little white face paint to draw the Labubu face.
Cute.
Very easy. Or my sons are doing 6'7", which is their all-time favorite. You just put a 6 and a 7 on one shirt. So
Shannon, you just committed a cardinal sin. You have to say it. 6'7".
I know. We have to do it.
All right, Shannon, happy Halloween. Thanks very much for joining us. Great tips. Good to see you, too.
Happy Halloween. Bye.
All right, finally this hour, you never know what will jump out at you while shopping at a Spirit Halloween store. For some customers at one in Texas, it was certainly something they'll never forget. Reporter Meredith Yeomans from our affiliate station in Dallas has the story.
It's just shock, sheer shock.
A Spirit Halloween store can be a surreal shopping experience. But creepy clowns and spooky scarecrows took a backseat Monday night to the real show, running around above store shelves. Arlene Pinkston was shopping with her daughters at a Spirit store off 75 in Plano.
My daughter looked up and she said, "What in the world?" And she's like, "Is that a real monkey?" And so I look up and I said, "Well, it's got a diaper on, so I guess it is real."
For more than 30 minutes, the monkey could be seen climbing poles, swinging from wires, and crawling around rafters. Jimmy Harris works at the store. He says the pet monkey got spooked by animatronics and ran away from a customer who brought the animal inside.
It was entertaining. I mean, it was like, I mean, a lot of people just stood and watched it for like 30 minutes, like the whole time. There was a monkey. And you had kids trying to catch it.
Plano police were called to the store and tell us when an officer arrived, he observed the monkey swinging from the rafters wearing a diaper. Eventually, a cookie was offered to the monkey by the owner and was able to gain control of it. Arlene Pinkston was not there for that.
It had jumped down on the floor and ran past my leg. And at that point, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
A picture or it didn't happen experience.
I've got better than that for you. I've got 5 videos.
I mean, come on. How could we not show that to you? Our thanks to Meredith Yeomans for that bananas story. Police say the monkey was never a threat and was not injured, and you're welcome for that. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is on assignment right now on Morning News Now, heading home. President Trump on his way back to Washington after a whirlwind 5-day tour of Asia. The trip culminating in a highly anticipated summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. The two leaders discussed trade, rare earth minerals, fentanyl. President Trump praising the meeting aboard Air Force One, telling reporters that he would lower tariffs on China and that several deals were made.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader. It was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made, too. There wasn't too much left out there.
We'll bring you the details and what this means for the president's trade war. Meanwhile, trouble at home as the federal government shutdown enters day 30. Democrats and Republicans continuing to butt heads as pressure to reopen the government mounts, with federal spending for several government programs set to expire by the end of the week. And at the Fed, interest rates were cut for a second, but maybe last time this year. We'll tell you what this could mean for you. Also, devastation in the Caribbean. Hurricane Melissa battering the islands as it makes its way through the Atlantic. Cuba and Jamaica now beginning the long road to post-storm recovery. We'll bring you the latest from the ground. And later this hour, clean beauty comeback. I'll be speaking to Beauty Counter founder Greg Renfrew on buying back her company and launching her new brand, Counter. That is a women mean business. I am very excited to bring you on. It's such an interesting story. And thanks again for joining us on a Thursday morning. We're going to get started with President Trump's summit with China's President Xi, which took place overnight in South Korea. Now, Mr. Trump hailed the meeting as amazing, as you just heard a few seconds ago, and said that he would reduce some of the trade tariffs on China. But the president is also raising eyebrows after he ordered the Pentagon to start nuclear weapon testing. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest from South Korea.
The announcement overnight that President Trump wanted the U.S. to resume nuclear testing provided a stunning backdrop to the beginning of this highly anticipated meeting. Despite that, the sit-down stayed on track and, at least according to the president, had some concrete results. He now says he'll visit China in April and that Xi will visit the U.S. after that. This morning, President Trump dialing back his trade war with China, speaking on his way back to Washington after his first meeting with China's President Xi Jinping in 6 years.
I guess on the scale of from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12.
The high-stakes gathering coming just minutes after a striking declaration by the president on social media, ordering the Pentagon to resume nuclear testing for the first time in more than 30 years on an equal basis with Russia and China, which have been building up their nuclear arsenals.
I say, well, if they're going to test, I guess we have to test. I'd like to see a denuclearization.
Despite that, few signs of tension as the two leaders greeted each other warmly at a military base here in South Korea.
He's a very tough negotiator. That's not good.
Before sitting down for a roughly 90-minute meeting. Trump now says the two reached an agreement. Overall tariffs on Chinese imports to the U.S. will fall from around 57% to 47%, potentially reducing prices for American consumers ahead of the holiday season. In return, Trump says China agreed to postpone for a year new restrictions on its exports of critical rare earth minerals commonly used in electronics like TVs and smartphones. The President Xi also pledged to stop fentanyl trafficking into the U.S. and that China has agreed to start buying soybeans from the U.S. again, a key issue for American farmers.
It was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made.
The Chinese summary of the meeting did not mention any new finished trade agreements, only that Xi told Trump both countries should avoid the vicious cycle of retaliation. Still, the president says he plans to sign a trade deal with China soon.
We have a deal. Now, every year we'll renegotiate the deal.
Back to the president's striking announcement about nuclear weapons testing. The president did not specify any more details, only saying the U.S. has test sites and that an announcement will be made. But Russia has recently been testing delivery systems for nuclear weapons, not detonating the bombs themselves, something that Russia and China haven't done in decades. A Kremlin spokesperson overnight saying that recent test was not a nuclear one, and that if someone abandons the moratorium on nuclear weapons testing, Russia will act accordingly.
All right, Gabe, thank you. Well, today marks day 30 of the government shutdown, and federal programs which provide food for millions of low-income Americans are set to run out of money this weekend. Despite the looming deadline, most lawmakers in the Senate say they are no closer to a deal. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins me now from Washington with more on where we stand. Hey, Ryan, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. We are barreling toward the record for the longest shutdown in American history. That, of course, clocked in at 34 days. And right now, there's no signs of slowing down. There have been no substantive talks to find a breakthrough since the shutdown began. And despite the consequences building across America, there is a stunning lack of urgency by members of Congress to fix this problem.
This morning, the real-world impacts of Washington battles hitting home. From food assistance for millions of Americans to travel ahead of the busy holiday season. As the government shutdown continues, airport workers like TSA officers and air traffic controllers missing a paycheck. National ATC Association Region 10 Vice President Mark Rausch.
They're plugging in and looking at the runways, and in the back of their head, they're like, I just ran out of money. I have $0 in my bank account.
Yesterday, Newark Airport in New Jersey, grounding planes for over an hour. The FAA saying the delay at one of the nation's busiest travel hubs was caused by staffing issues. Another deadline looming during the shutdown, the federal government just days away of running out of funds to support the country's SNAP program, once known as food stamps, meaning more than 42 million could go hungry.
Now you have to worry about where the next meal is going to come from.
Inside the Capitol, Democrats attempted to pass a series of bills that would provide funding for SNAP and WIC, another nutritional program set to run out of money. Senate Majority Leader John Thune blocked the proposal and hammered Democrats for not voting on the bill that would open the entire government.
We've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times.
At the heart of the Democratic resistance, health care. Leaders want extra funds for people on Obamacare to continue. And they say without it, prices will skyrocket.
Just a few days from now, open enrollment will begin and reality will strike for tens of millions of Americans.
Quiet conversations continue among rank and file members trying to find a solution, but they've yet to amount to much. Senate Republicans are convinced moderate Democrats are ready to break.
And even though Republicans hope that there are moderate Democrats that are going to show signs of breaking, they have all said publicly that they remain firm in their insistence that the government will not open until there are serious negotiations around health care. Meanwhile, the House has not been in session since September 19th. That's close to a month and a half. Meanwhile, the Senate has gone home every weekend since the shutdown began. There's been some talk of forcing lawmakers to stay in Washington until a deal can be reached. But even that seems unlikely at this point. Savannah.
All right, Brian Nobles, thank you very much. Well, in economic news, you might have heard the Federal Reserve cut interest rates yesterday. It was by a quarter point, and that was expected. But Wall Street was a little surprised after Fed Chair Jerome Powell kind of put doubt about the fact of another interest rate happening at the next meeting in December. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung, he was at the Fed News conference yesterday, which I know you love.
Oh, this is like my Super Bowl, and it happens every 6 weeks.
I love when you go and then you come back, you tell us about it. Okay, so tell us, though, remind us why we cut, why that was expected, but then this sort of surprising news that he cast doubt. He said that the conclusion was not
it's
set
not a
in
foregone
stone.
conclusion.
Exactly, that there would be a rate cut in December.
Yeah, well, look, the big headline here is that for people that have been looking at their mortgage rates and their credit card rates and their auto loan rates and seeing them come down, like the 30-year fixed mortgage rate has come down from like 7% to around 6%. Well, you might want to put a pin in that because essentially the Fed, which already cut interest rates in 2 back-to-back meetings in September and then yesterday, well, people may have thought they're going to continue to cut interest rates in December, but the Fed chair is saying it is not a foregone conclusion. They're going to cut in that final meeting of 2025, and they're far from it. So there's a lot of things that the Fed needs to see before they decide they want to continue to cut interest rates. But the big takeaway for consumers that don't really know what the Federal Reserve is doing anyway is essentially it might not be for a little while before we get another interest rate cut, which means that those borrowing costs that you face on a daily basis, they're not going to precipitously fall from here.
You've been covering layoffs also. I mean, this has been a big story that we've been seeing from massive companies like Amazon. We talked about that yesterday. I know the slowdown in the jobs market was something that you actually got to ask. You asked Fed Chair Jerome Powell about this yesterday. What did he say?
Well, I mean, it just feels like anecdotally people are seeing more headlines about these big companies laying people off, and for the Federal Reserve, which is cutting interest rates to stop any sort of issues in the jobs market. I asked him, is the jobs market deteriorating? Here was his answer.
We do not see the weakness, as you put it, the weakness in the job market accelerating.
I mean, no story. You can look at the numbers. Same thing with the job openings we get from Indeed. There's just no story over the last 4 weeks. It's kind of stable. So you don't see anything that says that the job market is, or really any part of the economy is making a significant deterioration. Don't see that.
And so the Fed chairman not sounding too concerned right now. But again, the reason why they're cutting interest rates in the first place is to prevent that from happening. So, yes, there are these anecdotes of UPS, Amazon, Target, yesterday GM making these job cuts. But the Fed chairman saying at an economic level, at a high level, he's not too concerned about it. But again, they're hoping that doesn't turn soon.
So bigger picture, of course, everyone just hears these headlines and wants to understand, what does this mean for me, my wallet, the decisions I need to make?
Yeah, well, again, rates are not going to go substantially lower from here. The Fed chairman essentially saying temper your expectations for further interest rate cuts. It doesn't mean that they won't cut interest rates, but it also means they won't slash them. So for people that were hoping for a 3% mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed, it's not going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately.
All right, Brian Chung, back from the Fed. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Well, we're, of course, tracking Hurricane Melissa still. This powerful storm, it is barreling toward Bermuda now this morning after slamming the Bahamas overnight. Officials say at least 36 people have been killed in the storm's wake after it decimated communities across Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti. The UN estimates 1 million people were impacted by the hurricane in Jamaica alone. NBC News correspondent George Solis is live. He is in the capital of Jamaica, Kingston. He's got a closer look at the destruction that's really, we're just getting a full picture of. George, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. We're actually outside of the airport where some of those relief flights and commercial flights will set to take off today. As far as Montego Bay on the north side of the island, well, some of those pictures, as you see in the airport there, partially destroyed. So it's unclear when those commercial flights will take off. And yeah, you're right. Our team was on the ground touring some of the hardest hit areas. The devastation is catastrophic. And this morning, there are still parts of this island that are completely inaccessible.
The devastating aftermath of Hurricane Melissa is coming into sharper focus this morning across the Caribbean. From roofs completely ripped off homes to entire towns flooded, aerial tours revealing the level of devastation.
We have no lights, we have no water, we have limited amount of food items. It's like we're cut off from the rest of the world right now.
These before and after satellite images showing the swath of destruction across parts of the country. Our team set out from Kingston to try and reach the town where the hurricane made landfall.
Part of the roadway here covered in mud, bringing traffic to a standstill in some parts. Residents taking it upon themselves to help with the cleanup.
Water inside. We up here, so you have to swim. Yeah.
You had to swim?
Yeah.
Americans David and Carissa told us their belated honeymoon in Montego Bay took a terrifying turn as the hurricane closed in.
It sounded like the roof was going to get ripped off. Like, it was terrifying. I think our number one priority is, just how do we get home? Right now, it's just all up in the air.
They're among the many tourists stranded in Jamaica. Montego Bay's airport sustaining damage. Water seen pouring through the roof of the terminal. The storm also pounding other parts of the Caribbean. In Haiti, the government reporting more than 20 deaths. And in Cuba, where the hurricane made its second landfall, residents now digging out after flash flooding leveled homes.
Yeah, and the U.S. State Department says it will be sending urban search and rescue teams to go to those hardest hit areas, and some of that critical aid, again, set to be arriving here this morning. Savannah?
George, thank you very much. Well, for more on Hurricane Melissa's continued path, also, we're going to get you a look at your Halloween weekend forecast. We have Angie Lassman here with us. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning. Lots going on. Still talking about Hurricane Melissa, Category 2 as of 8 a.m. Winds at 105 miles per hour and moving at a pretty good pace of 21 miles per hour to the northeast. That means it'll maintain Category 2 strength as it passes just to the west of Bermuda. We'll see some additional rainfall for folks there. And then beyond that, as we get into later parts of Friday and Saturday, the system will weaken. We'll no longer be talking about Melissa, but we've still got that last gasp here as we get through the day today for folks in Bermuda. Meanwhile, it's a soggy one across parts of the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, back to the Ohio Valley. We're waking up to some wet weather. You can kind of see the rotation from this system kind of dragging in some of this moisture. We've got some tropical moisture from Melissa kind of working its way in as well, feeding into this system as it works across the Northeast. Basically what it means for us today in this region, rain and wind. And we're especially going to be concerned about some localized flooding from Philadelphia to Boston. So heads up for folks there. If if you're commuting later today, you might run into a little bit of a slower go. Beyond that, as we get into tomorrow, some of these showers will linger into the extreme northern portions of New England, and you can even see some higher elevations picking up maybe some snowfall. But it's the windy and cool conditions that will really get your attention as we wrap up the day tomorrow, specifically across the Northeast, where we'll see those winds anywhere from 30 to 40, even close to 50 miles per hour the closer to the coast you go. Atlantic City expecting wind gusts up to 46 miles per hour. Now, that's going to add insult to injury, I would say, when it comes to chilly temperatures. So we've got the 30s closer to the lakes. Notice Syracuse, 43 degrees, but with those winds, it's going to feel much cooler. So 35 is what you can expect. This is late tomorrow evening. So chilly conditions, windy conditions for our friends in the Northeast. We'll call it some frightening winds, and we'll also watch for the spooky showers across parts of the Great Lakes and the Midwest. Now, drier skies, they're draped across parts of the Gulf Coast. So Transylvania, Louisiana looks pretty good, low 60s. We've got Skull Creek, Nebraska into the upper 40s, and then bone dry conditions out towards Albuquerque, New Mexico,
so is Skull
and
Creek
Death Valley.
real?
Savannah, just go with it, please.
Real?
Kill Devil Hills. How about that? We know that's real. These are real. These are real places. We took some creative liberty, but it's fine. No creative liberty taken with this, though. Here's your Sunday forecast for the New York City Marathon.
New York City day.
I don't know about you, but this is my favorite day of the year in New York City, and it is just delightful. We've got a whole lot of sunshine for folks that are running the marathon, for spectators, fans that are cheering alongside, and we've got temperatures that start in the mid-40s around 9 a.m., but as the party's still going, in the mid-50s by 3 p.m. So really good.
You're throwing a party.
I am throwing a party. Anyone want to come?
Party.
You're invited.
No, I love it. It's a great day in New York City.
It is a great day. It's full of good energy, and the weather is going to cooperate too, which always
so
makes
exciting.
me feel so much better.
Oh gosh, it actually sounds like a gorgeous fall day.
Yes.
Angie, thank you so much. Covering a lot for us. Well, let's turn to Illinois now, where a verdict has been reached in the case of Sonia Massey. A jury found former sheriff's deputy Sean Grayson guilty of second-degree murder for the 2024 shooting of Massey. She was killed and shot when law enforcement responded to her home. Massey's family furious, saying the conviction is a far cry from the first-degree murder conviction and life sentence they were hoping for. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is outside the courthouse with the details. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, Sean Grayson remaining stoic as the verdict was read. That jury deliberating for more than 11 hours over 2 days before finding him guilty of that lesser charge, which carries a maximum possible sentence of up to 20 years in prison. A far cry, as you said, from that potential life sentence that could have come with a first-degree murder conviction. As a result, this morning, Massey's family speaking out. This morning, former Illinois Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson guilty of second-degree murder.
Second-degree murder? That is not right.
The family of his victim, Sonia Massey, outraged he avoided a first-degree murder conviction.
I'm fueled by rage right now. If you get an officer that says he's going to shoot you in the face, and then he shoots you in the face, and you only get second-degree murder.
The jury of 9 women and 3 men finding Grayson shot Massey in her Springfield home last year and that his claim of needing to use deadly force was unreasonable. This after Grayson testified that he perceived Massey's behavior as a threat when the Springfield mother of 2 who had called 911 about a possible prowler picked up a pot of boiling water, saying,
"I'll shoot you and you better fight."
Prosecutors arguing Grayson should have backed off when Massey ducked and apologized. Instead, stepping towards her, moments later, firing multiple shots. Just before closing arguments, the defense adding the second-degree murder option to jury instructions.
And the defense probably knew that ultimately his self-defense argument would not win the day. So they gave the jury another option.
The shooting sparking reforms in Illinois around the hiring of law enforcement officers after personnel records obtained by NBC News revealed Grayson had disciplinary issues at previous police jobs. Now, Massey's father calling for the maximum sentence.
He showed no remorse. He was so cocky throughout this whole trial.
You felt like he was cocky?
Oh, yeah. Until today. Until he
was convicted.
Yeah. That knocked the smirk off.
Now, Sean Grayson is set to be sentenced in January. His attorneys and his family, for what it's worth, both declining to comment. But Sonia Massey's dad, who you just saw in that piece, told me that their family spoke to Sean Grayson's family during the trial. And he said that he feels sorry for Sean Grayson's family, telling me, quote, "I understand his mother didn't raise him that way. She didn't raise him to hate anybody." Savannah.
All right, Maggie, thank you very much. Well, now let's turn to Virginia, where the civil trial is underway in a $40 million lawsuit filed by a teacher who was shot by a 6-year-old student. Abigail Zwerner alleges school administrators ignored warnings about the boy. Yesterday, never-before-seen video evidence was revealed during the trial. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk is here with the very latest for us. Steph, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. In addition to testimony from Zwerner's doctors and her sister, security camera and body cam footage released publicly as a part of Zwerner's civil trial are giving us the first look from inside the school that day. A warning, some of what you're about to see and hear may be disturbing.
For the first time, security footage and body cam video revealing the frightening moments that unfolded at Rich Neck Elementary back in 2023. That's when a 6-year-old boy fired a single shot from a 9mm handgun at his first-grade teacher, Abigail Zwerner. A school staff member can be heard telling police what she saw.
As soon as he shot it, I was walking down the hall and I heard, and I went right in. Abby was in, the teacher was bloody.
The video is released publicly as part of Zwerner's civil trial in Virginia. She is accusing the school's former assistant principal, Ebony Parker, seen at her desk in these images, of ignoring multiple warnings a student had a gun. Additional footage shows first responders treating Zwerner's injuries in the school's front office before racing her to the hospital. In the ambulance, Zwerner asking EMTs to distract her. On Wednesday, a surgeon describing Zwerner's injury.
This is much more similar to a war injury than it is what I normally see.
The bullet, which is still lodged inside Zwerner, sliced through her hand and into her chest, just missing her heart.
For something like this, it is actually way more dangerous to remove the bullet than it is to leave it in place.
Back in 2023, Zwerner told Savannah the wounds were a traumatizing reminder.
It's been helpful now that they've scarred over, but it's still a reminder that, hey, this happened to you. This is what your body's been through.
Also taking the stand, Zwerner's sister, Hannah, sharing how Abigail's behavior has changed since the shooting.
It's very hard to get her to go out and do things, and if she does, someone has to be with her. She's really afraid of being alone.
Defense attorneys attempting to discredit that testimony, bringing up the fact the pair attended a Taylor Swift concert together months after the shooting.
And your sister was able to go do that?
Yes, but it was not without its challenges.
The defense also arguing that in this case, hindsight is 20/20, and that assistant principal Ebony Parker was following protocol, including not searching the child until his mother arrived. This trial, which resumes today, is expected to last a couple more weeks.
All right, Steph, thank you for covering it for us continuously. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. Rebuilding a billion-dollar brand. I'm going to speak with Counter founder Greg Renfrew about how she's redefining clean beauty. Again, that's coming up in our series Women Mean Business. A South Korean company is making a major investment in America's shipbuilding industry. Now, it's something that's been a priority for the president as he tries to bring more manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer reports.
On the southern tip of South Korea, shipyards rise along the coast. At one of the biggest here, Hanwha Ocean, massive cranes move ship components into place, like pieces of a giant puzzle fused together with ships nearing completion docked at the shore.
It really is hard to capture the size and scale of the work being done here. Some of these ships are as long as the Empire State Building is high.
Shipbuilding for commercial and defense purposes is a big driver of South Korea's economy and a linchpin in trade and security relations with the U.S. President Trump wants to revive and modernize America's shipbuilding industry to grow fleets made entirely in the USA.
We're going to be spending a lot of money on shipbuilding. We're way, way, way behind. We used to build a ship a day, and now we don't do a ship a year practically.
To do that, the U.S. needs foreign help with deep pockets, and that's where South Korea comes in, pledging $150 billion in investment. The government here even calling it MASGA, or Make American Shipbuilding Great Again. Hanwha Ocean is emerging as a key player in that deal. We visited the Kaja shipyard, where they showed off advanced techniques like automated welding. They also build military ships like submarines for South Korea's Navy, but we weren't allowed to film anything deemed secret. Hanwha is also courting contracts to do maintenance work on U.S. ships.
I think this is a starting point, stepping stone.
A stepping stone to what?
Go inside the USA.
For Hanwha to go inside the USA to build ships?
Yes, of course.
The USNS Charles Drew is a cargo and supply ship, part of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet, operating in the Indo-Pacific.
So it's a lot more cost-effective for us to stay in the area.
Danny Beeler is the ship's principal port engineer.
There's not enough shipyards for the amount of ships that we have or that Big Navy has. I'm with it for bringing it all back to America.
That American shipbuilding has seen better days is not exactly a secret.
All of our programs are a mess.
Congress has heard from the U.S. Navy, as well as the private sector, that commercial and defense shipbuilding takes a lot of time and money.
I think our best performing one is 6 months late and 57% over budget.
It wasn't always like this.
A nation that had neglected its shipbuilding facilities for years suddenly became a nation of shipbuilders.
During World War II, America reached its peak as a global shipbuilding power until demand declined after the war.
And less expensive foreign competition came along, for example, first from Japan and then from Korea and now from China. The U.S. shipbuilding industry was much less competitive in the commercial market.
Based on gross tonnage, or what ships weigh, South Korea, Japan, and China are far outpacing the U.S. China alone accounts for 74% of global production. By contrast, only 0.2% of the world's ships are being built in the United States.
A maritime power gap widened by Chinese government subsidies.
I'm with those that think it is useful for the United States to have a shipbuilding industry. I don't know how we will be competitive in the commercial shipbuilding industry. That will take substantial investments.
And so the future of American shipbuilding may be playing out in Pennsylvania at the Philly shipyard acquired by Hanwha Ocean last year. There's a $5 billion plan to expand it with advanced Korean technology and skilled training for workers to build more ships on American shores and begin to restore an industry.
Our thanks to Janice Mackey-Frere for that report. Well, coming up, King Tut's treasures revealed. This weekend, the Grand Egyptian Museum finally opens its doors, including thousands of items that have never been seen before. Our Keir Simmons joins us with a sneak peek. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning. We're going to start with the Democratic congressional candidate who's been indicted by the Justice Department for her involvement in an ICE protest. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona joins us from Washington with more. Mel, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. We begin with a DOJ indictment over ICE protests in Illinois. A special federal grand jury has indicted a Democratic congressional candidate who allegedly blocked vehicles outside of a federal immigration facility in Broadview. That candidate, Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, is running for an open blue seat in Illinois' 9th congressional district. The indictment alleges that she physically hindered and impeded an agent who was forced to drive at an extremely slow rate in order to avoid injuring any of the conspirators. In a statement, Abu-Ghazaleh called the charges an attack on all of our First Amendment rights and said she is not backing down. In other DOJ news, the Justice Department placed 2 federal prosecutors on leave after they described January 6 defendants as a mob of rioters. The prosecutors used the phrase in a sentencing memo filed this week in a case involving Mike Taranto, who stormed the Capitol on January 6 and was later pardoned by President Trump. But Taranto was convicted in May after peddling a bomb hoax and showing up to President Barack Obama's neighborhood with weapons and ammo in his van. And finally, an update in the redistricting wars. Louisiana's Republican-controlled legislature passed 2 bills this week to delay the state's spring elections, a move designed to give them more time to redraw their congressional map ahead of the 2026 election in a way that will give them extra Republican seats. Meanwhile, Maryland Democrats are signaling they are unlikely to join the redistricting battle. Senate President Bill Ferguson told colleagues that the chamber will not try to redraw the state's congressional map, saying he hopes it will inspire other Republican states to resist pressure from Trump to redraw their own maps. And that's what's making news in politics this morning. Savannah?
All right, Mel, thank you. Coming up, how scary is too scary? Our forecast has been a record amount on Halloween this year, but there are some worries that some of the decorations, like unsettling clowns like this one, or gory zombies, or this house that looks like it's actually on fire, are going too far. That debate is next. We are one day from Halloween, and this morning we're taking a look at a frightening debate. Are some Halloween decorations getting a little too scary, especially when you throw young trick-or-treaters into the mix? NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa is here with more on these spooky sites. I mean, they've leveled up.
They have leveled up for sure. Have you seen some of these displays? I mean, definitely gone are the days of just jack-o'-lanterns and goofy ghosts decorating doorsteps. Instead, more homeowners are going for jump scares with fake flames, blood and gore, and headless zombies. It's a trend raising concerns from some parents that such displays are turning the holiday fun into a serious fright fest for kids.
In the countdown to Halloween, homes nationwide are crawling in spiders, skeletons, and even this larger-than-life pigeon haunting New Yorkers.
It goes all the way to the corner and then around the block. It's bonkers.
But some are noticing decorations nowadays are feeling less like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Hi? And more like a scene out of the thriller It.
Well, float down here.
Driving the debate this spooky season, is Halloween getting too scary for kids?
What is the thought process when putting up like the scariest figure for children?
If clowns are your worst nightmare, you'll want to avoid the Alves Yard in New Jersey. The family of 5 shares on YouTube how they pulled together nearly 160 pieces for the haunted holiday.
What would you say to someone who's saying, this is too much, this is too scary?
Yeah, I mean, it's Halloween. It's supposed to be scary, right? Like, your prize for going through the scare is the candy, which I think all kids would sign up for that. I think there's a fine line between scary and gory.
In South Carolina, this fiery fright has prompted numerous people to actually call 911, though the couple did give their local fire department a heads up.
This truck is on fire.
Fake flames are also a theme in this zombie car crash, with videos of the blood-curdling block racking up hundreds of thousands of views on social media. The National Retail Federation estimates Halloween spending will hit a jaw-dropping $13.1 billion this year, a new record, with more people buying decorations than costumes. This year, Home Depot is even offering a spookier sidekick to its viral Skelly. While Halloween Horror Nights from our parent company NBC Universal is giving guests such a fright, they now have the option to wear a necklace to help limit the scares.
They're like acting like I don't exist. Is there a point where like, okay, that decoration is too much?
I think it can be when there's little kids in the city, like not wanting to scare them or alarm them.
So what's boosting the boo in Halloween? Some psychologists point to increased exposure to more explicit images, perhaps making it harder to get a good scare.
I do think that the level of fear that has been like ramped up, but I also think the level of people wanting to be scared is just as strong as ever.
So if you're worried about really scary decorations, experts say take your kids trick-or-treating before it gets dark, or first expose them to the spooky yard in the daylight before they're
that's a great tip.
Dr. Ziegler also says one positive is it can build resilience and confidence after you get through that scary experience. I guess if they're not totally scarred. But one of the things I find so funny
for resilience building.
There you go. We never would have thought. One of the things I find so funny is like some of the scariest decorations, their names, like Crouchy the Clown. That sounds like kind of a nice name. Or Skelly the Skeleton.
Yeah. I love that giant one. Is that Skelly? The tall one?
Yep.
I
or
want that.
Carl, which
My
is like
husband
a bloody
won't let me buy it. He says we don't have anywhere to store it year round.
There's always room for Skelly.
Exactly. I know. I like it, but I don't have kids, so I'm into it. But that was funny. The house on fire is impressive.
Honestly impressive.
Thanks, Em. All right, we've got your latest financial headlines now. Chip maker NVIDIA has become the first company to reach a major milestone. NBC's Emily Lorsch joins us with that and other money headlines headlines. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. That's right. NVIDIA has become the first company to be worth $5 trillion. That's higher than the GDP of every country except the U.S. and China. The chipmaker's record run has fueled this year's market rally and made fortunes for some investors, but it's also raising concerns about an AI bubble. And a major move in the AI world, Character AI says it will ban anyone young 18 from having free-ranging chats with its chatbots. That's starting November 25th. The platform says it's responding to growing worries about the impact of AI chats on young people. The decision follows lawsuits and new laws aimed at protecting minors from AI. Finally, the days of human driving could be numbered, at least according to Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. He predicts that in about 20 years, driving will look more like, quote, horseback riding, as cars become fully autonomous. Uber is already testing that road ahead, partnering with Waymo in Austin to bring fully driverless rides into Uber's app for the first time. And Savannah, I don't know, but I expect this transformation could be a bit controversial.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Emily, thank you. Well, just over 100 years later, after King Tut's tomb was discovered, the Grand Egyptian Museum will finally reveal all of his treasures to the world. For the first time ever, all 4,500 masterpieces in his tomb will be put on display together, and over 3,000 have never been seen by the public before. Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons, who gets all the cool assignments over there, gives us a special peek at the museum in preparation for the official opening. Keir, good morning.
I apologize, I'm sorry. But you know, Savannah, look at this extraordinary museum, the size of 80 football fields. You can see tributes to the pyramids in the design there on the museum. And then look at this live shot. These are the pyramids of Giza. That's the view, it's just across from me, that you get as you enter the entrance of the museum. You know, Savannah, over the years, we've had extraordinary, exclusive access as they've moved King Tutankhamun's exhibits to this museum. Now, soon, you will be able to experience his world for yourself. Entering this immense atrium is awe-inspiring. King Ramses II, 3,500 years old, sent from the past to guard this modern museum. The Grand Egyptian Museum, built with $1 billion, adorned with futuristic pyramids. The grand staircase itself stretches from ancient Egypt to the Greco-Roman period. You're stepping through time, thousands of years of history. With 12 newly constructed exhibition halls, the pharaoh's new home overlooks their old home. The men and women who built the pyramids are at rest with a view of the pyramids.
Exactly.
57,000 artifacts make this the world's largest collection dedicated to a single civilization. Today, getting an exclusive inside look at the galleries.
Gold, ivory.
From beautiful bracelets worn by a queen. She had a lot of jewelry.
She's queen.
To the busts of kings.
We can see the muscles of the king and the
muscles
of hand. So he wanted to go to the afterlife in the shape.
In good shape.
In good shape.
Yes.
Every artifact holds a secret.
And this weekend, a new gallery will be unveiled, dedicated to King Tutankhamun, known as King Tut. The museum's promotional video offering glimpses.
This is ancient Egypt brought back to life.
For almost a decade, we have tracked the tough task of transporting King Tut's world. In 2017, we were face to face with the last precious piece to move, Tutankhamun's golden mask. King Tut is moving home. To the new museum's loading bay.
This is a statue of Tutankhamun.
The artifacts, irreplaceable.
His boyish face.
Yes. Over 5,300 of King Tutankhamun's belongings painstakingly restored. This is a footstool for King Tut.
Yes.
3,000 of his possessions never displayed in public until now.
Greatest headlines of the century.
Back in 1922, Tutankhamun was discovered in his tomb. And although the pharaoh himself will remain here...
In what we decided, this mummy should stay in the Valley of the Kings.
All the objects found in the tomb will now be on display in the new museum.
This will capture the hearts of people everywhere, because this is the best display of a museum in the world.
Millions will flock to see the pharaoh's treasures and experience his world, an ancient civilization in a stunning new setting, fit for the future. And it's this weekend that Tutankhamun Savannah's artifacts will first go on display. To state the obvious, it's gonna take time for us to see it all. I am gonna come back. Just one final thought though, Savannah, you know, thousands of years ago, they built these incredible tributes to people who have left us. In a sense, look at this museum. We're still doing it, right?
What a great point, Keir. Gosh, it's just so fantastic. It makes me want to go see it so much. Thank you, Keir, for bringing us this. That was fascinating. Coming up, Counter Comeback. The founder of clean beauty pioneer Beauty Counter is back in charge. I'll be talking to Greg Renfrew about losing her dream business, but then getting it back, and now what she's done. That's all up next. We are back with our series, Women Mean Business. Today's guest is one of the leading pioneers in the clean beauty movement. Greg Renfrew is the founder of a new brand. It is called Counter. You're seeing pictures of it on your screen. It might feel familiar, though. Her mission is to set a definitive standard of clean beauty for the future. Renfrew's entrepreneurial spirit runs deep. She's actually started 4 businesses over the course of her career. The first at just 19 years old, but her first beauty company is what you might be familiar with. It's called Beauty Counter. It came in 2013. It was after she watched the movie An Inconvenient Truth. Well, Beauty Counter quickly became a billion-dollar brand. After making the emotional decision to sell a majority stake in 2021, Renfrew was no longer in charge of Beauty Counter. The company eventually went into foreclosure. She then bought her business back, but then she had more tough decisions to make, and that's what we're about to get into because we have Greg Renfrew live in studio today. Greg, good morning.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. It's great to see you. I think that your story is fascinating on so many levels. I just hit some of them, but it's sort of like the personal triumph, but then also the challenges that come with being a founder. And then it's also the clean beauty of it and exactly what you've done. When I say that you've been like a leader and really making a standard, we're going to talk about that. So let's start with Beauty Counter. Tell me a little bit about what happened here. I mentioned you sell the business, then what happened?
I sold the business in May of 2021 to a private equity firm, and that summer was the first summer where things kind of began to open up after the pandemic, and the business had a challenging summer, and they made the decision that they thought there was someone else that was better to run the company, and so they brought in a new CEO. And unfortunately, there were a series of poor choices that were made under his leadership, and fast forward 2 years later, I was asked to come back in as CEO, which I did, and at that time, the company was in a different state, and we ended up going quickly into foreclosure, which was a really challenging experience for everybody, having tried to find a home for the business. But I was able to purchase the business out of foreclosure. Just at the very last minute, the banks called me and they said, would you like to get your company back? And
what was that moment like?
It was really crazy. I mean, first coming back in as CEO was a hard decision in the first place. And then, you know, my daughter, Georgie, actually all of my children, we were on spring break. It was Sunday night.
I was going to say, weren't you on a vacation?
I was on vacation, yeah, like whatever vacation we ever take.
Right.
And my youngest daughter really said, Mom, you just can't let this die. You know, you've worked so hard to build this movement, and we believe you have a right to do this, and let's all lock arms. And we made the decision to buy the company in 24 hours.
God, I just love what a key figure your daughter was in that moment for you and in that decision. Okay, so you buy it back, but then, like I said, after that are more tough decisions, which ultimately get us to a new brand. Tell me what you did.
So I bought the business in April of 2024, and what became immediately apparent to me after I had a complete anxiety attack, like, why have I done this? I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I had no plan. After a complete moment of holy moly, I realized very quickly that the business was truly broken at that time and that there was no clear path forward, which I think the private equity firm had seen when they made the decision not to fund it anymore. And I decided, unfortunately, that we needed to shut the business down. And it was an incredibly difficult decision because it meant that a lot of people were losing their jobs. We had a community of women that had built the business with us, and they were losing their opportunity. But there was no clear path forward, and there was no way to really bankroll the business at that time.
And then Counter.
And then Counter, yes. So I took the last summer of 24 to kind of reimagine what I could do. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't planning on buying the business, but having given it a lot of thought, I thought we really have a right to come back into the market. We created and pioneered the clean beauty movement.
And you sort of like streamlined what you're doing and
so
the products that you offer, which was just launched, by the way.
We just launched. Less products done really, really well, still built on a community of women predominantly who are able to share our story and amplify our efforts. We're still really focusing on setting a definitive standard for clean so that we can protect the health and safety of people. That's important to me. It always has been.
It's so important to you that you've like really led this charge. I mean, all the way to Capitol Hill, because it's very confusing. You go into a store and it's like kind of clean, or it's only clean because the company made a donation. It's weird things like that. But you want women to know what they are putting on their face.
I want people to know, I want people to be able to make informed choices. When I started Beauty Counter, the first company, I realized that there were all these chemicals that were used in all of our day-to-day products, and people had no idea that certain of those chemicals were harmful to health. And so we've used the power of community and conversation to educate people so that they can make the best choices for themselves and their families.
What would you like to see as a standard?
Well, I'd like to see a standard, well, first and foremost, that all companies are disclosing ingredients, that the fragrance is no longer a loophole, that you have to put what's in your fragrance. I would like to see a situation where there's one standard that all consumers, brands, and retailers know to live by.
Which would make it so much easier when you're going and shopping for cosmetics to make those decisions. We've got like 30 seconds here, Greg, but we love in this segment to ask for a woman who's listening. And I think your story is so inspiring because you're really honest, which is amazing, about the ups and the downs. Maybe she's got an idea. She doesn't know where to start. She wants some advice. What would you say?
First and foremost, I think you've got this. Most women doubt themselves when they go into starting a business. Secondly, when you go to raise capital, know that it is a two-way conversation. There's more capital to be deployed than there are great leaders and great ideas. And also just to trust your gut. Don't let others influence your decision. Just if you have a vision and you know what you're doing, go for it. That's what I've been doing with Counter all along, and it's really, really important for women to know that.
Greg Renfrew, you're so inspiring. Thank you for joining us, and congrats on Counter.
Thank you so much.
It's out now, just launched. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.